I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, all you garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people. Welcome to Let's Get Growing show here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today, and we've got a really great show ahead for you today. We've got a couple of our really good friends joining with us here today for a Sunday gardening roundtable today. I love these gardening roundtables, and usually, in fact, my very first live stream roundtable I ever did was with our good friend Christopher Brandsdal, who will be with us here on the roundtable today. But usually we're here with my good friend Kang Star as well. They were like our very first roundtable I ever did on the Urban Gardener channel. One of the very first live streams I did with someone else, like a kind of interview or hangout or just garden discussion, sort of like what we're doing today. And Kang couldn't make it today for today's discussion, so I thought, who best to fill in for Kang, who usually has these garden discussions with us on these garden roundtables, than my good friend Mike VanDuzee as well from Keep On Growing. So we'll have Mike VanDuzee joining Christopher Brandsdal and myself here just a little bit later on in the show for a fun gardening discussion. We'll talk about all sorts of stuff, but really, these guys are really masters at growing without soil. So I thought maybe that's a little bit of a subject we'll touch on and talk about, is each of their different types of techniques that they use for growing some really amazing plants. Mike's really great at getting and doing some really good microgreens and all sorts of other stuff. But hydroponics, he can do really well with some good do-it-yourself type projects that he does. And Christopher, just, he's a real tech guy. I mean, this guy can really put together some real good systems and things to grow some hydroponic plants that are just really amazing for a gardener all the way up in the mountains of Norway, where it's a really short gardening season for a guy like him. So he gets to do a lot of growing indoors, and hydroponics is one of those ways that he gets growing a lot of really cool stuff. So we'll talk to them about all of that sort of stuff coming up here in just a little bit later on in the show. And if you are joining with us here right at the top of the show, definitely be sure to click the like button and hit the thumbs up. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already, as well as that bell notification. And that bell notification will notify you and let you know about all of our upcoming live streams and videos. I've got videos coming up. We're going to talk about some videos that we've had come out already this last week, and also be sure to share with all of your garden friends out there, garden groups, all that sort of stuff. Help spread the word. Let's get the word out there about the Let's Get Growing show and all of our really cool, amazing guests that we have here on the show every Saturday and Sunday here at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I have to also kind of give a little bit of a caveat and a warning right here up front at the top of the show as well, too, as we're talking about this part here. I say every Saturday and Sunday. Well, you know what? There are going to be some times where we're going to have a day off, or we're not going to have a certain show or a weekend or something like that. So we say every, but you know what? Sometimes there's going to be a day like next Sunday, when we won't have a show. So there won't be a show next Sunday, unfortunately. I'll try to see what I can do about maybe coming and just hanging out and doing some live with you all. It just kind of depends on what's happened. Some things are kind of up in the air for me for that day. So just kind of depending on what happens. Maybe I'll be here. Maybe I'll do what I did when I took the break or something, and I'll set up a show, and we'll leave the chat open so that everybody can chat and have a conversation. I know a few people really enjoyed being able to do that when we took our couple of weeks off. So maybe I'll do something like that as well, too, just in case I don't end up showing up. But yeah, that's just kind of a warning for Sunday. But usually every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m., 2 p.m. Eastern, we got the Let's Get Growing show here. And again, to also a big, huge shout out to all of those of you who are joining with us here on the replay. Thank you right from the top of the show for coming and joining with us here at your time. You know, this is a live show here at a specific time on the weekends, but a lot of people can't join for that, although we really wish you could, and definitely do if you can. But you know, all of you who get to watch this as a replay here on YouTube, thank you so much for spending your time hanging out with us here for, again, like I said, a really great fun show that we'll have for you. With our great guests that we've got coming up here a little bit later on in the show. And again, if you have any questions or comments, if you are here on the show, just jump into the chat there, put the questions in big old capital letters or anything like that. If you are joining us on the replay, get down into the comments section below and or to the side or wherever the comment section is these days, and drop in a comment there. Let us know if you got any suggestions, any questions, any thoughts, anything like that at all, or even if you just want to say hi. I'd love to hear from you. Definitely let me know what you've got growing on. Drop some comments in the comment section below for sure. And also too, I've got some links in the description to our guests. Be sure to use those links. I mean, I really, really do appreciate that so much when you go and check out our guests and go and participate. And like I said, I encourage everybody, if you can, I know it's a little extra thing to do, but click onto their links, go to one of their more recent videos or community posts or something like that, and just let them know you saw them on the Let's Get Growing show. I always appreciate it when you guys do that. So thank you so much to those of you who check that out and follow along with our guests as well too. So right on, we got a lot of things growing on. We've had a really great weekend already so far. Like I said, we're here every Saturday and Sunday, so that means we were here Saturday yesterday, and we had an amazing guest yesterday. We had Jenna from Growfully with Jenna on with us yesterday. It was such a really great conversation. She was on our show last year, so this was a return visit for Jenna right here on the Let's Get Growing show. And I can say exclusively too on the Let's Get Growing show, as she was telling me after the show yesterday, that she hasn't done any other gardening shows or anything like that as well. She's only been right here on the Let's Get Growing show, and she's just a widely loved gardener in the gardening community. People just love her channel. I really just I can't get enough of her content, and so I hope that you guys go back and check out that show yesterday and check out our conversation with Jenna. Really great conversation there as well too. So lots and lots going on, like I said today. Yeah, and also I was mentioning there just a minute ago too about videos. We've had some videos that I've been putting out here on the channel. I'm going to try to get myself back into the groove, I guess you would say, when it comes to doing and putting out video content. Might be a little bumpy as we get ourselves rolling towards spring, but I hope by springtime I've got a good flow going and we're going to get ourselves throughout the whole growing season, put out some really good videos. I'm starting off with this video series. One of the things I really love to grow, I know our guest Christopher, he loves to grow peppers. In fact, I got a variety that he gave me years ago that I'm growing this year in the garden as well. We'll talk maybe a little bit about that later on, but I love growing peppers, and I've got kind of like a little system I've been using for years that's kind of developed over the years in any ways. And so I'm kind of sharing my growing peppers system in a kind of growing pepper series, and we'll just kind of follow my whole experience throughout the year with specifically our pepper grow. And so there's a lot of things to talk about. I've already put out a video kind of talking about how I chart and keep track of all of the different varieties of peppers that I grow throughout the year. In fact, we'll probably be adding a few more to the list that I put out in the video already. So we got several different varieties we grow. I kind of show how I keep track of all of that, and then talk about the different varieties that we've already chosen for this year. I got another video coming out this next week in that series that I just put together, where I talk about sowing them out. So I talk about the seed starting mix I use, talk about some the heating mats, things like that, and answer some questions and thoughts that I have about those parts of the growing the whole growing stages of the pepper grow. And then again, like I said, we'll follow along. I got another video coming out where we're talking about the light station. So it'll just be a whole series that'll just kind of cover all of the main aspects of all of the different growing. We'll talk about hardening them off later, outdoor soil containers, all that sort of stuff. So I do believe that I might have a link. If not, I'll get a link down below as well into the and I'm sure Jay will get into the chat right now as well too. But I'll try to get one in the description as well for that series, so that you guys can go and check that out. Plus other things, I want to continue doing some garden journals and that sort of stuff as well too, as we get just kind of hopefully take you guys along better. It's been a kind of a rough last couple of seasons when it comes to video content. We've been kind of really regular right here on the show, lots of great guests. I love doing all of this, but I want to do a little bit more and showing you guys what I'm growing and how things are growing in the garden, throughout the gardening year. And hopefully we'll have a good year. If not, I'm going to take you guys along with all the rough stuff as well too, some of the things that don't work out and all of that sort of stuff, as well as we're growing throughout the growing year, So again, I hope you all like those videos and follow along. As I said, hit that bell notification so you can be notified of all of those upcoming videos as they come out. And I've been noticing, and I was looking here earlier as I was getting things set up, and I was just noticing something that's right in the view of the camera. I put out a video or made a little video that I shared with all of you guys a few weeks or a couple of weeks back about all of the plants that we've got growing in the background. And so I did a little tour around and got up and close and show you all of each individual plants that we've got growing here in the background of our set here on the show. And so I did a video of that. And in the video, I talk about the one plant you don't see very much of. You see kind of a couple of the leaves here, but this is a Dracaena fragrans. It's basically a corn plant. If you know, they're the ones with those big kind of thick round stalks, and then the plant kind of grows out of the side of those and comes up and has nice big long flaring leaves. These are a nice real deep red with some kind of white variegation that'll go down the middle of it a little bit. But really great plant. And I was sharing in that video though, and you can go back and check out that video. I put that out as well too as a separate video on the video page. But I had a flower. It flowered for me. Actually, it flowered for me last year. And then I noticed a flower a few weeks back, and as that flower was maturing and dying off, I noticed another flower was forming, and it's actually kind of poked its way and moved itself right here onto this. You can kind of see it here a little bit. But yeah, this is probably one of the more, and they call it Dracaena fragrans, and that's because it's fragrant. And when and it doesn't smell right up until the point that these flowers, and it's a bunch of little tiny flowers that form this kind of almost like an allium, like a onion flower in a way, but it has these little tufts of those flowers kind of going down the stalk, and they'll each open up into probably, I'd say 30 40 flowers per tuft, and they'll kind of open up and then just create this most amazing fragrance throughout the whole house. And then if my neighbor's doors and my doors are open, it'll flow out of the house and it'll go into their house. It'll if I leave my doors open, it'll go out into the neighborhood, and people will be able to smell it all the way throughout down the neighborhood as well too, because they just in I say pungent in the sense of its strong fragrance, but it's an amazing one too. It's one of those ones that really, when you walk in the door and you don't know, which happened to me a couple of weeks ago, and you don't know that it's actually flowered, you just kind of, and you walk in the door and it just kind of hits you. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. And then and having the experience now a couple of times with a couple of different plants, I know exactly what it is now. But it really kind of like, wow, something amazing is really smells, and it's thick throughout the house. Anyways, I love the flowers from those dracaenas, the corn plants, and I'm really lucky right now too. Is over there. It looks like maybe about next week it should be flowering and opening up, and this place will be smelling amazing again. But yeah, right on. Again, like I said, we got lots of things going on. I got to get moving. We do got our In the Garden segment here with our good friend Marc Boucher Colbert. This week, though, Marc is away, and I want to take this opportunity to play for you guys a segment from Marc's course. He has a really great gardening course that he put out on Udemy, and there's also a link to that down below in the description if you want to go check out this course. But this is just kind of a segment, one of the segments from his course, what they didn't teach you in gardening school. So I hope you all enjoy.
Let's do a what if. What if you were running a marathon? Someone approaches you with some food midway through. In one hand is a buttered bagel, in the other a glucose gel pack. Which one do you take and why? Hopefully the answer is clear. You're going to take the glucose gel pack because its simple sugar molecules are usable immediately by your body, providing a net energy boost to your run, whereas the fats and complex starches of the buttered bagel will require energy first to break down before they yield their chemical energy back to the body. So let's translate that into plant ease. Many of your garden plants are running the equivalent of a garden marathon, a multi-season long haul dominated first by vegetative growth, then by, hopefully, an equally long season of harvestable product. Whether they are pumping out fruit like tomatoes, yes, that's botanically a fruit, or bulking up their vegetative bodies like celery, long-growing plants may need some extra oomph during their run to the finish. That's where liquid fertilizers come in, or liquid lunch, as I like to call them. Let's take a step back for a minute and think about how fertilizers operate. First of all, fertilizer provides nutrients, and nutrients are things plants need to grow. Surprisingly, a plant gets all of its most important components from water and air for free. No fertilizing required. Yep. Last time I checked, water and carbon dioxide were free, and from those a plant builds the carbohydrates which fuel its growth and which get combined to make structurally stable elements like woody tissue. So those would be the most abundant elements in plant bodies: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, all free for the taking, no fertilizer required. Beyond that, plants need 6 more elements called macronutrients in fairly large quantities. The 3 most significant being nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, followed by sulfur, calcium, and magnesium. In addition, they need 8 other elements called micronutrients in much smaller or minuscule quantities, and we're not going to worry about those here. Only the first 3 large quantity elements, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, will concern us. These may or may not be found in the soil, either in the mineral portion, the part made up of the ground rocks, or the organic portion, the part made up of the dead things that were once alive. If they are not there and the plant needs them, then guess what? The gardener needs to add them, which is called fertilizing. Another big reveal. In order for a plant to get a nutrient, it's got to be dissolved in water. That's the way a plant can grab it from the soil and send it on up to support vital functions. Let's review what it means to dissolve. When you have a minute, get 2 glasses of water. In one drop a marble, paper clip, or pebble, in the other a teaspoon of sugar or salt. Then stir each a bit with a spoon. I predict in all my garden wisdom that you will see the following happen. The marble, clip, or pebble will sink to the bottom of the glass, and no matter how much you stir it, it will remain a clearly visible and identifiable marble, clip, or pebble. The sugar or the salt will start to sink, some will seem to disappear, some will settle on the bottom of the glass, and with a little stirring it may all disappear. In addition, the water will discolor slightly or look somewhat different. At this point you're like, I paid $30 for this? No, this is just a reminder about what dissolving means so that you don't have illusions later about fertilizer. Get any fertilizer you want and do the same little experiment with another glass of water. Take a spoonful of the fertilizer, drop it into the glass of water, stir a couple of times and see what happens. Does all the fertilizer either sink to the bottom or float on the top while water remains mostly clear? Probably not a lot of dissolving going on there. And what might that mean for plants? It would mean that if you added this to the soil, plants could not get a hold of it right away because it is indissoluble or not soluble in water. If, on the other hand, some of the fertilizer seems to disappear as it's falling down and the water discolors slightly or a lot, you know that something has dissolved and that this fertilizer has the potential, at least, to be liquid lunch material. Provided what's dissolved is one of the needed plant nutrients, then it's conceivable that plants could be feeding on this stuff minutes, if not seconds, after applying. So as the plant is running its race, giving it soluble fertilizers are like giving a runner a glucose gel pack. Immediate payoff. And giving it insoluble fertilizers are like giving it a bagel, which must first be digested, in this case by soil microbes, before the nutrients become soluble and therefore usable by plants. Because you will earn the scorn of your housemate, spouse, partner, etc. if you go testing all your fertilizers in the supply of kitchen glassware, there is another way to decide what's soluble and what's not. There's a label on all fertilizers that tells you. Every package of fertilizer has printed on it, in addition to other material, the amount of the three most important plant nutrients that the plant can't get for free: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, in that order. In garden lingo, it's called the NPK numbers, and those numbers stand for the percentage by weight of that product in the whole fertilizer. So if I had a fertilizer with numbers like 511, like a jug of fish fertilizer, you can tell that it's got a lot of nitrogen, the N or first number, a little phosphorus, and a little potassium. If it were a 100-pound jug, it would have 5% or 5 pounds of nitrogen and 1% or 1 pound each of phosphorus and potassium. And if I had a fertilizer with numbers like 0120, that would contain lots of phosphorus, the middle letter P, and Zippo of N and K, the nitrogen and the potassium. Aha, gotcha. It's potassium, remember? Even though the chemical symbol is K. If the fertilizer company is responsible, they will clue you into how quickly the plants can get the nutrients by indicating how much of the nitrogen and potassium is soluble. Soluble phosphorus, for some reason, is described as available, but that's clear enough, I think. If it's available, it's soluble. If it's soluble, it's available. So now you have a little bit of a clue about what kinds of fertilizers plants can use immediately. The soluble ones, or ones that dissolve. Okay, real life problem. If you apply a fertilizer that's 8% nitrogen, but only 4% is listed as soluble, what happens to the other 4%? It's there in the soil in a form that will need to be broken down later by microbes into smaller molecules, which then will be able to dissolve in water. Generally, liquid fertilizers are good candidates for liquid lunches, and some dry fertilizers can be too, if they are highly soluble. Another thing we want to and need to know about fertilizers is how the various major elements support growth of various plant parts. Basically, with liquid lunch fertilizers, we're mainly going to ask an either-or question. Do we want the plant to produce mainly leafy parts, like lettuce or cabbage, or do we want the plant to produce flowers, fruit, or seeds, like tomatoes, peppers, or corn? If we want leaves, we're going to use a liquid fertilizer that's high in nitrogen, N. If we want fruit, flowers, or seeds, we're going to use a fertilizer that's higher in phosphorus, P, and with some supporting potassium, K. Sometimes over a plant's lifespan, we'll start with a nitrogen fertilizer to encourage a plant's leafy growth in the spring, then shift to a phosphorus potassium fertilizer in the summer when it starts to bear fruit and seeds. That fish fertilizer I was talking about earlier, the 511, that's a great fertilizer for keeping lettuce growing strong during spring, summer, and early fall. It's all about the leaves with lettuce, so it's got to be all about the nitrogen with the lettuce fertilizer. I also personally love bat guano, especially for indoor use, because it delivers a soluble nitrogen boost without much burden to the nose, if you get my meaning. Now, how about something for peppers that are just starting to bear flowers and, hint, hint, flowers mean fruit are coming up. I use a 131 liquid fertilizer for peppers during the latter part of the season to allow them to focus on fruit production without stimulating a lot of new stem and leaf growth, which is the role of N. In this fertilizer, the 131, phosphorus in the middle is the heavy hitter, and that corresponds with the plant's use of it for fruit and seed production. One thing to notice is that even though all three elements may be present in a fertilizer, one will usually dominate, and that will influence what the fertilizer does. Where does liquid lunch fit into an overall soil fertility program? In my gardening, I apply solid granular fertilizers directly into the soil at the beginning of the season, something with balanced numbers like 4-3-2. But I know it may not be available to plants right away. In fact, I'm counting on it to be released slowly all season long. I supplement this background fertilizer with liquid lunch when I know conditions are not prime for microbes to digest and release nutrients. For example, in order for soil microbes to do their best digesting, soil temperatures need to be warm. You may remember that biological reactions are driven by enzymes, and enzyme activity is temperature dependent. In the cool spring and the cooling fall, soil temps may sink, and even if there's a lot of nitrogen in the soil, for example, bacteria and their enzymes may be on strike due to the cold and may not be liberating it into a soluble plant-friendly form. That's a great time for a nitrogen-heavy liquid lunch, which will ensure soluble nitrogen gets to your plants for strong leaf and stem growth. Later on, as I indicated, it may be time for a phosphorus liquid lunch. I do this for peppers in July, August, and September because I grow a lot of my peppers in 5-gallon pots, and that means that beyond their pot, they can't just rummage around the soil and get what they need. That's a point I want to reiterate for all container gardeners out there. When you garden in any kind of container, which so many people do and successfully do, you have a greater responsibility to manage nutrients. The longer the plant is in a pot, the more often you will need to feed, and liquid lunch on a regular schedule is just the thing for container gardening. If a plant seems to be indicating a deficiency of a particular nutrient, say yellowing leaves signaling perhaps a lack of nitrogen, I may give it an appropriate liquid lunch to see if I can correct the problem. Do be aware, however, that it can be hard to diagnose a deficiency correctly from just a single symptom, and thus the liquid lunch remedy might have no effect. Okay, you know your plant, you know your target plant part that you want to encourage, and you have a fertilizer with the appropriate numbers. Now look at the package and find the mixing directions. Liquid fertilizers are generally concentrated and need to be diluted to the correct level. With fertilizers, more is not necessarily better. Mix to the recommended dosage and apply at the interval specified. Gardeners are well advised to get a soil test and/or to apply a balanced organic fertilizer at the beginning of the season or at the beginning of the crop cycle. However, there are going to be times when your plants need a boost. The liquid lunch philosophy allows us to meet the plant right where it's at and give it what it needs to succeed. And if a plant running a fine race and committed to finish looks like it needs a quick energy glucose gel pack, would you give it a buttered bagel instead?
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. All right, all right, all right. Excellent, excellent, and thanks to Marc Boucher Colbert for his In the Garden segment there. And if you can check out his course there, what they didn't teach you in garden school. He's got a bunch more really great videos and all of that, covering all sorts of things about gardening and everything. He's a really, really great garden educator, and like I've shared before, he's one of the first friends I made doing all of this sort of garden stuff and making videos and everything, as I met him on the top of that. And you saw a clip of it there during the video of him up on the rooftop there in Portland, Oregon, where he attends this garden for this restaurant up on the top of, right on the rooftop gardening at its best, full city skyline behind you and everything. And yeah, so again, too, really awesome of Marc to share all of that with us. And if you can, go ahead and check that out if you're looking to learn some more about gardening and what they didn't teach you in gardening school. Like I said, there's a link down below. And like we asked there in our Sunday Q&A too, let us know in the comments there, what are some of your favorite peppers? I've been talking about this. I just started up all of my peppers, got all my seeds sown out, and really excited about all of that. I've talked about all of the varieties of peppers that I'm growing in this upcoming growing season in a recent video. You want to go check that out at our video homepage, and you'll see what we've got growing on there. Real quick here, we got our guests waiting in the wings here for a really fun Sunday gardening roundtable here in just a minute, but I just wanted to highlight everybody here who's showing up with us for today. And I saw we got tons of people already, just like yesterday and the last week as well too. Conversations just getting really, really good around here on the Let's Get Growing show. So thankful for all of you who are joining with us here today. And of course, we've got to real quick here, say hi to our facilitator, Jay Dixon. She joined us on the show yesterday, and we had a little conversation about what she's got growing on and everything there. But we do thank her for all of the really great links and helping the conversation along throughout the show, for doing all of this great facilitating. Thank you so much, Jay. I see Bowtie Life was in the conversation earlier before we got the show started there too. So yeah, right on. Yeah, we got a really great conversation coming up here real soon. I see Mill Creek Market joining with us here today. Adam Burley, our other moderator, joining us from just right up the road from me here in Southern Oregon, Central Point. Great to see you, Adam. Thank you so much. We got DLR 978. Hi, everyone. Let's get growing. Says, I've not tried hydroponic gardening, seems expensive. Oh, well, that's one of the reasons why having Mike with us today is a really great thing as well, too. I mean, he's the king of doing do-it-yourself hydroponics, making it really, really inexpensive for anybody to enjoy doing that. And so we'll talk about that too. So stay tuned for that. We'll kind of touch on some of that as well then for you as well. Let's see. Ozark Homestead, thank you for joining with us here. And I see I Am Human Jake. Excellent. I love that name. Thank you so much. Hello. Great to see you there, Jersey Girl. We've got Dusty Flats here with us today. Getting into the Aussie thing. Yeah. We had Marty Ware from Marty's Garden on the show last week. It was really great to have him talking to us live from Australia, which was really great for him to get up that early to join with us. And let's see here. We got John Jude. Hopefully you don't have any network problems and freeze like yesterday. Oh yeah, I know. Yesterday was really awful. And my system seems to be doing this every now and then. Hopefully it doesn't happen today. I've been fortunate that it hasn't happened during the show up until yesterday. And luckily we had Jenna from Growfully with Jenna on with us. She just took right over. She just, I was gone. I fell off of the whole show. And she basically took over and hosting and doing everything. everything until I was able to get myself reset back up onto the show. She did an awesome job. For someone who hasn't done any live streaming or been on any other shows or anything like that, she jumped right to work and took care of everything. So again, hopefully it doesn't happen, but I know if it does, I've got a couple of really great guests who know right what to do as well too, and we'll get it figured out. I don't know what's going on with my system lately, but something is. I see Christopher was in the conversation as well too. He's here ready to join with us here. And Rick from Australia, thank you. Mobius, I see you're there. Awesome. Says me. Okay, excellent. Yeah, that's awesome. Any way to do it. Tony from Simplified Gardening joining with us. I see Janet Potter was in here. Right on. Serena, hello. Darth X, awesome. So glad to have all of you guys here with us today. So great to be here with all of you and to be able to share all of this fun gardening conversation. So let's get moving along today. I got both our guests here waiting in the background here for us to get going for our this has been really fun. And I'll just say this too, is that usually I'm here again. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. We've got Christopher and Kang Star with us. We're usually the three of us getting to talk, doing these roundtables. It's kind of how this whole idea kind of got started. So they've our roundtables up, and other than the ones we do with Christopher and Kang, have always been kind of an introduction of a couple of other gardeners who really haven't met before, and getting to talk and hang out and conversate with each other. And now, so we're going to be doing that anyways this week too. And we're going to be kind of throwing Chris in to meet our good friend Mike here. So let's get going with this here and get this roundtable started. All right. So let's welcome into the show. We've got with us Christopher Brandsdal. Right on, joining with us here. And hopefully, I did see, in fact, I'm going to bump him in here. Nope, he's not. He's got to get added on. Anyways, we'll start with you, Christopher. And when Mike gets joining on here, we'll get going with him as well, too, here. So right on. How you doing, Chris?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah. You were telling me that you were on a big long trip, so you've been traveling all day, right?
Yeah, it's been super busy both week and weekend. It's been work. So I've been to Bergen, for those who know Norway. I was there in the weekend for a company thing. So I just came back. I just dropped off my bag and came down to the office. So
Right on. Excellent. So that's like Bergen would be, I think you were mentioning what, like 8 hours or so?
Yeah, so I have about 1 hour in car first, and then I took the train today, and it was like 5-6 hours on top of that. So it's a day's work.
Well, at least you didn't have to do the driving then. I mean, an hour, but the train mostly.
Okay, so there's a little bit of secret. I love driving, but it was a company event with wine, so yes, I wasn't. Since I was streaming today, then I was thinking that I should take the train. So I'm cleared for driving once I get back home.
Right on. Excellent. Yes, definitely. Right on. Well, again, great to have you here. And like I was mentioning to everybody, we usually have you here with our good friend Kang Star, who unfortunately couldn't make it today. Hopefully here, I was just checking in. But I know Mike's got here. As soon as he gets on camera, we'll get him joining in on the conversation here as well too. But unfortunately, we don't have Kang today. Hopefully, though, what we'll do is I'm hoping to, and I'll get a hold of him as well too, is schedule you guys for that first weekend of spring, like we usually do, like how we got this all started. And to begin with, was kind of like we did a couple of years in a row there where we just kind of launched spring together. So hopefully we'll get back together with him and we'll get that set up, and then we can possibly see your new grow room as well too.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking today that we might show off the grow room, but yeah, it was just too hectic on the clock, so I had to wait for a little bit better time, because there's a lot of things for me to get all the camera things into the stream that I'm connected to. So yeah, we'll most definitely do that.
Yeah. How is it all set, or is there still work to do?
About the grow room.
Yeah.
Yeah, the grow room is up and running. I've actually made 5 videos since December or something, and that's a new one. So I'm really getting back at it now, and things are going too fast for me. I just can't get the time to follow up on everything in the grow room. But yeah, I had some spider mite issues now, but they are mostly under control, I think, and I have 10,000 new friends joining in on the battle. So
yeah.
I
10,000
always
new
love,
friends, huh?
yeah, I'm using my predatory mites is my best friends. They are even smaller than me, so yeah, it's I
Right.
have some decent guys there working day and night with removing those pests.
Yeah. That's good. That's good, and that's a great way to go for it. Is taking the, having them do the battle for you in a sense, instead of having to
Because
deal with them in other ways that we don't really want to have to do.
yeah, and spider mites, you can poison your plant to death, and they still won't get rid of all the spider mites, but your plant will go away. So the best thing is to use something that's more yeah, living. I think living pest control is the best way to go. It's much more expensive, and it's a lot of work, but yeah, it's the best way to actually make sure that everything is gone, because those spider mites eggs, they are so small that even if you have a magnifying glass, you are almost not going to show it. So yeah, you need somebody working there alongside you, and you need to do washing and rinsing of the plants every now and then, and also introduce the workers. But the thing is that if you have a small room, or you have a room with only 5 plants, then it's easy to separation of concern. You just move all your plants out into the different sections, and they won't cross between. But when you have a large grow room like I have, and also like your room there, where you have so many plants going in together, then it's an issue. And on top of that, the most bad thing, or the worst thing when it comes to spider mites and thrips and stuff like that, is when you grow cucumbers, when you grow melons, when you grow all these things that the spider mites and the thrips are really, really loving. The normal house plants, they are almost left alone, in my experience at least. So they attack the food producing plants first, and they go so hard on it. And if you see you have it outside in the greenhouse in the summertime, or outside you have cucumbers, by the end of the season, it's almost guaranteed that those will be eaten by spider mites or thrips.
Yeah. So we're going to ask a kind of an interesting question here. Are there any specific plants that can repel spider mites or attract predators of them? I mean, is there something you could grow that would do that?
So I think,
I'm not sure myself.
Yeah, I think outside it's good to have pollinators coming in, and also keeping spiders is a good thing. But also in my case, watering and misting the plants is a really really important thing to do, because spider mites and thrips, they don't like water, but most of the predatory mites, they can actually withstand the moisture much better. But I haven't been playing with plants specific to avoiding the pests. But
Bowtie
I'm sure there's
says Bowtie says, they include marigolds, chrysanthemums, garlic, basil, dill, rosemary. So yeah, some herbs and some flowers and things like that.
Yeah,
are pretty repellent to things. That makes a lot of sense.
but it
Right
but
on.
it's not a guarantee. And if they want to go in there, like for instance, I have my enormous basil plant going in the grow room every single year, and that's
Yeah.
one of the first that actually gets eaten by the spider mites. So it's they don't might not like it as good, but they will take
Right.
it. So
That I guess that is true. There's a level of preference,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But the most important things is actually just take the time to wash your plants, scrub down every single leaf, and that way you can keep at bay with it. So yeah, it's what type of work you would like to put into it. And now in my new grow room, I have the ability to really hose down my plants. I didn't
Hmm.
have that ability before because I didn't have running water with the drainage, so I wasn't able to do that. But now I can, and it
Yeah.
seems like that might be the thing that pushes me over where I could actually fight back on these things.
Right on, right on. Well, I see we got our friend Mike in the background there too. So let's get him joining in on the party here for our Sunday roundtable. Let's add him to the stage here. Mike, Mike VanDuzee. How are you doing, Mike? How's it going?
Hey, pretty good. How are you?
Right on, right on. Mike, Chris, Mike. Nice to introduce you
Hello.
guys there.
Makes this-
Mike, thank you so much for filling in on our usual conversation. It says we usually have Kang Star with us when I'm hanging out with Christopher, and so when Kang was saying he couldn't make it, I was like, well, who could I get to fill in that would be the perfect match here for this conversation today? And I was like, Mike is good. Mike's the guy. Mike's the one we need to talk about. And because what I've kind of promoted this show about a little bit too is the idea of hydroponic growing, something I haven't done. I'm a soil guy. I've done so much growing in soil and everything, but I'm here with two guys who know a lot about growing without soil and different kinds of methods too. So you guys are kind of two different gardeners when it comes to that sort of thing. So I thought it would be kind of a really interesting conversation to talk a little bit about gardening without soil. All right. So real quick here, so with that being the subject, then I'll give you guys each here a minute. We'll start with Christopher. You're already on here, and just kind of tell us a little bit about your experience and yourself with growing without soil, hydroponics, and all of that.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm kind of a tech nerd, and I like to do things
Yeah.
that are not going to be commercially viable. I like to play around with ideas and see what I can grow that doesn't normally fit within the typical way of growing things. Like for instance, when I grow my coffee tree in water, or I grow the guava or some other things, it's not typically something that you would find videos on online. And I like to do those kind of projects because it tests my ability to do different things. I started with peppers and the cucumbers and everything, but I've found out that I'm most likely to grow them in soil because I am a soil grower also. That's
Yeah,
where my
yeah.
heart is. But the fun part is growing in water. But I really fell in love with growing larger plants or trees in hydroponic. And also I'm working on my next video now is gonna be about my new hydroponic setup in the grow room. I have so many different containers, and I'm sizing up at least to double size of what I've had before on the
Oh
container
wow.
sizing, and the
Yeah.
piping and everything. It's gonna be a whole thing. So I'm doing the idiotic way of doing hydroponics. It's not going to be the cheapest way. It's not going to be the most efficient way of growing food. It's just some sort of experiment. That's what I'm trying to achieve with that part of it. But
Yeah.
also I do other hydroponic things. Like I did make my own hydroponic grow station that I 3D printed and made the electronics for, and that's more for food production. I can use it to grow tomatoes or grow peppers or stuff like that. So I like to just
Yeah.
experiment. That's kind of my take on hydroponics. And I don't know what it takes for us to get you into hydroponics, but that's something that's kind of getting too boring now. We need to get you into water.
I know I've got to get some. Well, I mean, I did do a little bit of some fun experimenting with Mike. Has this really cool thing. He's into 3D printing as well, and he made this adapter to like a water jug or a water jar or something that you can use to utilize and grow some microgreens and things. So I did do that and have done that. So I guess I've kind of dipped my toe just a little bit. So how about that, Mike? So I was just mentioning there, you got your adapters and things like that. What kind of fascinates you or you do or when it comes to hydroponics? I mean, I was mentioning just to everybody else a little bit earlier that I think one of the things I really like about it is that and there was someone who was mentioning too in the comments. Chris kind of touched on that just a little bit, is that in some ways, if you go in some directions with hydroponics and hydroponic growing, it can be pretty expensive. It might not be the best way for everybody to go, but Mike, you're really good at doing do-it-yourself type hydroponic projects that make it really inexpensive and accessible to most everybody if they want to give it a try.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to say hey to everyone in the chat too who's been saying hey, Dave and Tracy and Jay and everybody that's out there. I hope y'all are doing well. But yeah, I just do it. I mean, it's cheap and easy, but good to meet Christopher here. If anybody asks about something else, because I don't grow, they're always asking me, can you grow this? Can you grow that? And I do basically like leafy greens and things that turn over fast, and they're always asking about stuff, and I've never grown a tree in hydroponics, so now I have someone to
exactly
right?
Exactly why I thought you guys would fit too, because it's just two different kinds of styles of doing different things, but you really utilize like I said, growing without soil, growing with, I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit too, solutions and things like that as well too. But growing food without soil. I mean, to me, it's really kind of fascinating. And again, like as Christopher teases me, is that I got to get in and do more of it and give it a try, get some things going. I don't know, maybe get one of those systems that you 3D print up or something like that. Maybe dip my toe a little bit deeper or something. But yeah, real quick though, Mike, tell us just a little bit more about some of those earlier projects that you started getting into and started doing that kind of moved you in that kind of direction of growing your food hydroponically.
Well, I was just on the road all the time with my wife, and we're always trying to garden, and we'd come home and we'd spend like a week or 2 weeks on the road. Sometimes you can't leave your garden, something happens, and I just wasn't good at it, and I was looking for different things, and fell upon hydroponics, like you were saying, that, and if you just go into traditional hydroponics, there's a bit of a learning curve and a little bit of out of pocket money in the beginning. And if you really don't know where to start, back then, YouTube wasn't really a thing. So you end up at a hydroponic shop somewhere and they're trying to sell you this and that and everything. And before you know it, it's coming up, a couple grand to grow some lettuce.
Yeah.
So I went home and found a couple of DIY stuff and started trying my own and kind of just fell in love with it, because if the power didn't go out, I didn't have like backup pumps and all the fancy stuff, but if the power didn't go out, I could leave it for weeks and be on the road and come back and, and everything would still be going good. So, I did it that way. And then someone was saying, she couldn't afford it and she was homeless and this and that. There's a whole backstory to that. And so I decided to try and make it as easy as possible. And I figured because we can always go out and keep getting bigger and fancier. And once I was on YouTube, everyone's always trying to do the next best thing and spending more money and getting bigger and bigger. And you kind of leave like some people behind. So I decided to go the other direction and try to make it as cheap as possible. And after we
Yeah.
figured that out, you can always go the other direction, but then you bring everyone up with you instead of, wherever we're at, there's a group of people that's left. So I just fell in love with experimenting, having fun, and trying to see exactly how cheap and easy you can make it. And we're still heading in that direction. I haven't headed back the other way. And it's just fun doing it without spending too much money, because I'm a cheapskate, like Dave.
Right, exactly. But and again though too, and with that sort of, those sort of parameters of your way set thinking, that kind of, gives you, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but you come up with very creative ways of doing things. So because of those ways of thinking about how you want to accomplish things, it makes it just a little bit more creative in what you're doing. And I think too, one of the things that makes you kind of similar, I think, with our usual guest for these roundtables, Kang, is that you utilize whatever you can. You know what I mean? You're utilizing, reusing things that people would normally just throw away and all of that. And you're finding ways to reuse things as well too, in order to accomplish some of this money saving when it comes to growing, right?
Yeah. Actually, Kang Star is one of the reasons why, he's one of the first ones I started watching back when I
Yeah.
first started. And he was just like, if you want to grow, and he's like, just getting out a little, you can just get this and put your plant in it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I watched a lot of Kang Star when he first started microgreens, even though he does, all the other stuff and the peppers and that. He did microgreens for a while on that. So pretty cool. Everything comes full circle.
Yeah, that's right, huh? Right on, Christopher. Let's talk a little.
Yeah, but I just want to shoot in. I totally agree, and I feel like we kind of come from the same place with hydroponics. What I really fell in love with is it's so much more forgiving growing hydroponic. You can leave your plants for days and days, and for me, like when I grow my big trees, I can leave them for days without caring. If I grow them in soil, I'm going to have to be by my plant 2 times a day to make sure they get water, to make sure everything. But with hydroponic, you can just set and go, and everything is off and running. And as you say, you can start with almost nothing. You can start with a container you already have. You can get some dirt cheap nutrients, and it will last a really long time if you're just doing vegetables or doing simple things or salad. And you can just leave it by the window, and you don't need grow lights for it. And there's so many things that you can do, and that's what's so exciting about it. It's so big span of possibilities within hydroponics. It's not you need to do this or you need to do that. You can start with a simple container, get hooked, and you can upgrade to 5 containers. You can grow them in the windowsill till there's no place left, and then you can move it outside. You can use solar power. There's so many things you can do with this way of growing. So it's for everybody, I think.
Yeah, and again too, and that was kind of again, I was trying to look back, but I couldn't see the comments though. But there's probably, and maybe even in my case too, originally years ago when I was first thinking about it, I've learned more about it over the years. But if you're just kind of new to the idea of hydroponics and you're thinking, oh, it takes this whole system and doing all this sort of stuff, so it's easily thought that this could cost a lot to do, which it can. You can do some things. I mean, you're talking, Christopher, already about you've got some systems, like you're saying, that you work with and have fun and experiment with, that are really high tech, got some real spendy pieces to them and that sort of stuff. But and that is available to people out there. Mike touched on that, to anybody who wants to go in that direction. But it doesn't have to be all of the all the bells and whistles and all that sort of stuff. Things can be really simple as well.
Yeah, for sure. And the nice thing is that the more simple you make it, the more suitable it is for food. And that's the nice thing about it. I feel like for for instance, the things that I'm doing to be able to grow tropical trees indoors in the Norwegian winter, and we have, I think we have 2-3 feet of snow now, and to be able to do that, and it's almost complete darkness. We have sun for 15 minutes a day now. I'm up north, and to be able to do that, you need to have those crazy grow lights. You need to do all those crazy things. But the simplest things that grow in my garden is the food, the salads, especially the salads, and you can grow carrots indoors, and you can do all sorts of things. And those are the least demanding on the sunlight and on the temperature and on everything. So yeah, it's just taking the basics of doing gardening, and just like, for instance, people are into cycling and they get a really expensive cycle, and they can do the same thing, almost the same thing with a really inexpensive one. But it's just kind of like it turns into a hobby, and it turns into a passion where you really want to push the limits of things, and you go way beyond what's economically sensible, and so but you can really do something nice with almost no budget. I think the only thing that I would need to grow food now is just a little flask of hydroponic solution, and that's it. And if you get something that's really strong and you can really dilute it, it will last forever.
Yeah. And we had a question here that came in from Bowtie David was saying that, Mike, you mentioned a cheap organic alternative for fertilizer a while back. Do you remember what it was? Yeah. How about that, Mike?
Yeah, that's probably more suited for Christopher. If you know, it's I don't use 99% of the stuff I do. I don't use pumps, filters, anything. It's what they call like cracking method or off grid, and anything organic that just sits like that. And if you're trying to grow, and it goes for a couple of weeks, sooner or later it goes anaerobic and smells funny, and things start to grow, and it comes alive, which is, good in the soil. But in your hydroponics, it can get a little funky. And then once you do get pumps and filters in there, most of the organic stuff tends to clog up the little tiny drip irrigation and filters and all of that. So it gets tough. I messed around with it. I haven't found anything that like really works that I would, recommend to people.
Right.
I've also done the same thing just for fun. I've tried to use different sorts of organic materials, but it's so bad. It stinks up. It goes anaerobic straight away, and it's just a horrible way to go. So if you're growing in pure water, then you probably are better off staying with the inorganic growing, I think. But for
have either of you tried aquaponics fish? I know that our friend who does the in the garden segment at the beginning of Sunday's show, he has in his grow room a big huge tub full of fish, and he just cycles the water through his system or whatever, and has this fish water. I mean, you guys haven't tried any of that though, right?
I have actually tried.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yeah. I actually tried. I think the first or the second year that I was really getting into gardening, and I got the grow room for it. I actually had an aquarium, and I was experiencing a little bit with it. But the problem with it, it's so easy that it gets out of proportion for me, at least. It turns into a full project, and you kind of use all the space for that. Because if you're going to do something like that, and you're going to produce enough waste to really get a system going, in my experience at least, you need a lot of fish, and you need fish that eat a lot and produce a lot. So it turns into a whole thing, and I see that being used in I don't remember, but I've seen I watched a channel here on YouTube that do aquaponics in a big greenhouse, and that works perfect. But it's like 500 fish or something, and it's this size. It's food fish almost, and you get the system running, and it's hydroponic and everything. But it looks like it's free, but it's I think it's a very expensive setup to get something going that will actually work. But yeah, but I think that would have to be
it's got to be practical in the long run too. It's got to be able to work.
It depends on what you want to do. So you can have like the setup I had. You can have a small aquarium, or a larger aquarium, and you can fill it with fish, and you can get a couple of plants going. But the maintenance is really hard, and if you want it to look nice, then just forget about it. And yeah, it's a whole thing. But it's really interesting. And I know that Kang also has been working on a similar approach. I would also call it aquaponics, which is just growing on a raft on top of water, just outside in nature, because that's really the same kind of thing. You just use the water and the nutrients in the water to grow things. And I know that the Kang on his farm, he has tried that. He grew lettuce on the pond that he had, where he just had a styrofoam float or something, where he had his hydroponic plant set up, and it just grows perfectly. It's the perfect setup if you have a small pond, or you have some sort of still water going beside your house. You can just throw something out there, and the nature will just produce whatever is needed.
That's great.
And it's such an interesting project, and I've been playing with the idea also. I just never gotten around to it because it's a little bit of work. But to just have a anchored up float out on the fjord where I live, freshwater fjord, it will be just perfect to see you can grow food. But you got to keep the birds away, and you got to do all these things. But it's a really interesting thing, because then you really get into nature. And I'm just curious about why there's not a large farm setup like that. Oh, there might be, I don't know, but it should be really efficient, I would guess, if you had a lot of fish.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of, like illustrations of like old, I don't know if it was like Aztecs, but old like native American setups where they had like, and I don't know if again, you'd have to research it to find out for sure, but I'm thinking like straw bale almost, that they've put together to create like these big rafts that they basically plant right in as it kind of, you can just imagine it brings up nutrients, brings up, the water, whatever's needed right into this like straw bale raft or whatever that they can grow just right out of, floating on lakes and ponds and places as well too. That's just really fascinating.
It's Chinampa.
Oh, you know about this then, huh, Mike?
Yeah. Hey, Mill Creek said that they use an organic fertilizer, but they've got pumps in that going, and it doesn't smell.
Oh yeah, What is it?
So you really wouldn't want it smelling up your basement.
Let's see. Oh yeah, it's fish fertilizer. So yeah, definitely.
I've got some without the pumps in that. I used some, and within a week, it formed like a SCOBY. I don't know if you guys
that
right across the top. I can just pull it right out.
Yeah, that's, and again too, like saying, when that's kind of the I don't know, we call it a danger in growing or trying to grow in organics. That's why you're talking a lot, Chris, or whatever, or you both mentioning, it's going to need a lot of filtration. You're going to need that sort of stuff. And then that just becomes problematic in the long run, or can be expensive if you're just constantly replacing filters and doing certain things and all of that as well too. So it could bring about that. But besides, those sort of practices, say aquaponics and those sort of things, when it comes to, utilizing fish waste and things, what are some of the things that you guys do use as far as solutions and things that, I guess they're not going to be organic, but, what are the sort of things that you guys use to feed your plants, Mike?
Me, I just use
Yeah.
Master Blend. I've been using that for years. A lot of the hydroponic nutrients when I first started were like really expensive. And I didn't start out with small containers. Um, I started out with the raft kind of thing and building a big, getting lumber.
Yeah.
And you have like 60, 100 gallons of water. And, so you're taking this little liquid nutrients and putting it in, you buy a little bottle for $30 and grow a little lettuce. And yeah, so it wasn't adding up. But
Right.
when you get it powdered and in bulk, like Chris was saying, you can get a little bit and it like lasts forever. So over here, with shipping and everything, if we're getting it liquid, you're paying mostly for water and the bulk that is coming in.
Right.
The only thing is, I've been telling people for years to get Master Blend. Somebody just DM me this morning and said they were all out, like on Amazon. And I went,
Really?
and like every supplier or whatever was out. So I might have to be looking for something else.
Oh no. Well, hopefully they get that figured out then, right?
Yeah. Or I'll just go try the smelly organic stuff and see if I can make that work too.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, in the long run, if you're willing to put the work in to kind of, keep things clean or do whatever, then, you can make that work. What about you, Chris? What are you primarily using, or do you mix something up yourself, or?
Yeah, so hydroponic, when I started 10 years ago, hydroponic was almost non-existent here in Norway. So to get started in America, you need to remember that my country is a cold, icy thing.
Right.
so we don't have those kind of cultures, long standing cultures by doing all sorts of different things. It freezes here all the time, so it's really hard to do that on a large scale. So it's just the last years that things really have been showing off. So I've been getting all my hydroponic. I use solution or pre-made the watery thing. And I got my recommendation from one of Kang's really old videos. He were talking about his hydroponic solution, and he was using something called, I think it's called General Hydroponics or something, Flora series or something like that. It's three different solutions, and you mix them together in a certain portion. Yeah, and I've been using it all since then. It's very expensive, so it's not a good solution. But for me, it's expensive either way what I buy, because hydroponic, I need to get it from outside of Norway anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I should probably look at solutions where I could use powder. It would be more sensible. But when I was researching this 10 years ago, there was no powder to be found on the sites here in Norway. So yeah, but I've been using it, and it's hard to switch when you've been growing in the same solution for many years and it's working phenomenally. Then it's kind of worth the extra for getting it. And I buy them now. I just got a shipment this week, and I get them in 10 liter. So I don't know how many gallons or what that's called, but it's the large heavy containers.
Right.
So I got 3 of those. So I have 30 liter of solution, and that will last me a really long time, even though I grow large plants in large containers. But the thing is that I only refill. I never remove the water and fill up again. I only backfill. That's the only way I'm growing. So with the new system that I've been setting up now, I'm going to have a solution where I can drain everything down by each tree. So I can say one tree is not doing well. I need to flush out the solution and refill with new one. So that's a possibility. But in the end, I only do backfilling, and that's not as much as total change all the time. And I see so many people are growing with deep water culture where we're using air and stuff like that. and they do a complete change out of the solution. And I haven't seen a need for that. I feel like that's more disturbing to the trees that I've been growing, and only backfilling as long as you can get something stable going. And my plants, when they reach like a year, they really do well. It seems like it's the same with soil. It's like a repotting if you change the whole solution, and the tree is gonna be a little bit stunt. So yeah, I try to just keep going with it, and it lasts me for a long time. But the general hydroponics, yeah, it's so good in my opinion, at least. But it's not the cheapest one.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I see that Jay Dixon did drop in a link there too to Kang's video, how to mix hydroponic nutrients, master blend, and general hydroponic flora series. So you want to check out that video if you want to learn a little bit more about mixing nutrients for hydroponic growing.
But I'm just curious. I'm curious, Mike. When you grow, do you consider pH or the hardness of water or stuff like that?
No. Before I get in all that, I just want to say too, I'm glad, like, Chris is the first one I met, unless you know other people, Chris, with the hydroponics. And I get this asked to me all the time is about changing out the water. And I never change any of mine out. Like Chris was saying, I try to maintain a level between 1/2 and 3/4. You know, some people, if I say don't change, they'll let it go all the way down, fill it all the way up. You know, I maintain a level and never change. And I'm like in Chris's camp, where I think that plants are kind of like people, and we don't like change too much. And when you do that, they're getting acclimated. It's not like it happened overnight. As the water starts to change, they're getting used to it. And then all of a sudden you're like, it doesn't look good to you, but the plant, you know, whether it's doing good or not doing good, you know, it's used to that environment. You take it all away, scrub off all the roots and that, and put brand new nutrients in there. It looks good to you, but you've done a drastic change, you know, to that plant. And I feel like, you know, sometimes it works, but most of the time, you know, I hear people, you know, are telling me, you know, I did this or whatever, my plant died, you know, what's going on. So I try not to, and just trying to keep everything as easy as possible. Chris, I don't own any meters, and I vowed, like, back years ago when I first started this, that I wouldn't get any and I wouldn't use any. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think, you know, people can go you can get them on Amazon for like $20 and use them. But I wanted to make a system where, like, my mom could just do it. If I just said, here, put this nutrient solution in there, toss your plant in it, you know. But if I told her she had to go and check the levels, get a meter, test it, add pH up or pH down, you know, well, which one I use? Well, you got to figure it out, Mom, right? And you have to put a couple of drops, stir it up, wait, test it again. And then, like me, I've got like maybe 40 containers going at one time. You know, it's going to take me all day checking and testing. So, you know, I don't want that to be my full-time job. I'm not going to do it. So if you're running a hydroponic system where you have a reservoir and it's going out to a bunch of channels and stuff and coming back, and you're just testing that one thing and adjusting, that's a little more feasible. But doing it the way that I do it, I don't check it. The water that I use, I'm in a city. I'm using city water. I was on a farm. We use well water, you know, and when I used it, what I use works. So I've never tested it, and I just use the city tap water. And I always get people telling me, you can't do that. It's got chlorine. It's got fluoride. Plants don't like it. And I'm like, well, my whole, you know, garden's growing. So, you know, maybe yours doesn't like it. We're all in different situations. So if you're trying it and it's not working, it might be worth it to go, you know, test the hardness of your water, or get it sent off like you sent off your soil to get it tested. You know, you can get the water tested too. Or try some distilled water from a store. And if it does good in there, then you know it's your water. But, you know, to me, I would do the easiest thing possible first, you know, and see if it works. And then if you can't, you know, I go ahead and troubleshoot it. But I don't check anything. And I'm on a mission to be the dumbest gardener in the world. So I'm not gonna, I'm never going to bite. So everyone can say, oh, you have to do this or you have to do that. And I never do.
Yeah.
No, I
You're a
totally
real
agree.
rule breaker.
Nah, but I think I feel the same way. That's why I asked, because I was just curious. Because uh, when I started with this, so many people online, all tutorials were about correcting the pH and the hardness and all stuff like that. And the ones that were most correcting on the pH and the hardness, they got the most poison in the water. So I feel like you're just trying to make it worse, essentially, by doing all of that. What I did when I started, I checked the pH of our water. We have well water, and we have a little bit hard water, and it is well water, but it's 7 pH exactly. And I said, let's run with that and see. And I've never checked it after. So I feel the same way. And I feel like if you're doing aquaponics where you have fish, these things are important. You need to keep the fish alive, and there's certain steps you need to do to make sure that you keep the quality of the water for the living fish. But other than that, you're just doing more work than is ever needed. The only times that I've had my water go really bad is if I let my plants do really poorly. So for instance, if I grow melons or cucumbers, they can be a little bit finicky if you have too much solution. But then you just throw it out just to get rid of it. It's not something I could save. I couldn't save the water if I tried to correct it. Well, I could maybe get the pH back to where it's supposed to be, but it's not going to be water that's going to be suitable for plants anyway. So if you get those kind of problems, just get it away. And other than that, just try to avoid making it more complicated than it needs to be, because it's just about getting fresh water, adding a little bit of nutrients according to the label, and that's it.
Yeah. It really
Yeah.
isn't that hard. I think even, when it comes down to it, I try to in my, in whatever I talk about and do with my gardening in soil, whether it's containers, all that sort of stuff, is there's a very similar message that you're conveying, is that it's really isn't as hard as I think we can make it out to be when we think of the concepts and ideas without any previous experience. Then it's just like, there becomes all of this sort of stuff, and then all of these questions that start to come about. And then usually is, when it comes down to it and you break it down, it can be really, really simple ultimately, and easy to do, and not hard to find simple successes either.
Yeah. The only I also do the same thing where I only backfill and I keep the same level. I have this on a computer with sensors that just backfill once it just dries out a little bit. But the only time that I really let the container go bone dry before I backfill it is when I grow coffee, because that really induces the fruit production or the flowering, because the coffee tree are waiting for the drought and the first rain to come, and then it shoots out with all the flowers and it really starts producing. And I see that with my plant, that every time I've had some mess up with my watering system, that's where I really found the way to deal with the coffee.
So by
When it
accident, you
dries,
figured that out then?
yeah, by accident. And I was thinking, it looks interesting. Let me continue to work on that. And for several coffee tree generations, I've done the same trick where I just leave it go bone dry, and the tree starts wilting, and I need to be careful because it's a really critical time. You need to not let it completely dry out, but you let it dry as much as it gives it a little bit of a shock, and then you backfill, and it really starts feeling like it's a rainy season, and it just explodes with flower buds. So it's really fun to play around with those sort of things. It's that's what I call the hobby part of it.
Yeah, sometimes, it's stressing plants out that can induce its reproduction and presenting flowers. In fact, I was just showing off again to my corn plant flower that I've got here. I don't know if everybody can really see it there. but it's popping out from this corn plant that I've got. One of my favorite flowers ever. But again, too, I'm losing track of where I'm going with this. But that's kind of what I've noticed, though. And again, it's soil still, but I let it go dry, and it's starting to want to produce flowers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, so that kind of is a case with some sort of plants, especially when you need them to produce flowers in order to be productive, like a coffee plant.
Yeah, and especially those plants that grow in the tropics where there's rain seasons. They are really, really important for them. It's not going to work the same way on lettuce. It's not going to help the lettuce to let it dry out. But
it's still going to induce some. It's still probably going to induce flowering, though.
Probably
not going to help for your production or what you're trying to use.
I think the heat is going to be worse there.
Yeah, exactly.
You get CC's Texas Garden, somebody new in your chat.
Oh, yeah. I was just seeing here. Oh, yeah. There we go. New to the chat, CC's Garden. Thank you for joining with us here. It's great to see you here. And again, too, also, we're all talking about hydroponics today here on our roundtable. So if any of you in the chat has any questions about hydroponics or anything for Christopher or Mike here, drop those in. Definitely. Let's get some questions in there that we can ask these guys, too, while we've got them here. Like I said, I'm not really experienced with hydroponics. Other than getting to watch videos or see what you guys do and all that sort of stuff. So I find a lot of it really kind of fascinating when it comes down to it. Again, too, I got to try and do a little bit more and everything. But again, too, I know we kind of touched on how Mike got kind of started in all of this. What kind of brought you to hydroponics, Chris? Was that something that you were doing first before most any of your other gardening and growing, or was that something that kind of came out of your first starting to garden and grow?
Yeah, for me, hydroponic was a curse word in my grow room, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I've been a soil guy. I've been my gardening as an adult has been very focused about growing in soil. I love soil. I love playing with soil. I love the smell of soil. I love everything about soil. But it's really hard to do good soil gardening indoors.
Yeah.
And I also have this nagging friend called Kang that's been bugging me to get into hydroponic. I've been friends with Kang for many, many years, and he's always been, when are you going to start? Like I'm bugging you now. It's the same way. It's just you need to get into hydroponics. You need to try to do it. And I did try it on his thing, and I wasn't super impressed because I feel like I can do the same thing with soil, but it was when I really figured out I can experiment with this. I can try to see. I really fast wanted to see what can I grow in water that's not supposed to grow in water. Like for instance, how to grow a cactus in water. That's an interesting thing. I've grown.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like that's even supposed to. Those things are supposed to go together.
And I have an aloe. Maybe you can see it there somewhere here.
Yeah, there it is, right there.
I've been growing aloes for years, and you don't want to overwater your aloe. But I can grow it in hydroponic. I can grow it in water, but I can't overwater it. And I feel like that's so. Yeah, there's something interesting here. There's something to play around with, and it really, really stuck with me. And also, one of the best side effects of growing in water that I found indoors is that it's really good for pest control. It's so much harder to get a full pest infestation if you grow in water. So many of the pests really rely on the soil for some sort of or some part of the life cycle are really soil involved. So especially thrips, they are so much easier to control if you only have water buckets in your grow room. So yeah, it's kind of something that stay with me, and now going forward for the last years, and also going forward now, I'm going to have my grow room split in two. I'm going to have water grow on one side and soil on the other side. It's not the same thing to sit down by the water buckets to really enjoy the grow light sun. It's much more enjoyable to sit down with the potted plants with all the soil and everything.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of that, but there's definitely more things that water growing can do for you than what soil growing can do for you indoors. So yeah, and
Yeah,
everything
and
is on steroids. They grow so much faster in water. So yeah, everybody needs to try it at least.
Yeah, exactly. And and just for the reasoning of dealing with less pests, I think that's a really big one. Is that something that you find as well, Mike, when you're in your hydroponic garden as well too, that you're dealing with less pests?
Yeah, well, one thing, lots of our stuff can be up off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That
you know,
helps
you
too.
get less bugs and stuff like that. You know, you still white flies, you know, and things will still be a problem. But I don't use pesticides. Someone in your chat earlier said something about, you know, not using any poisons in your garden and that
Mhm.
the predators. The one thing is, you know, if you try to get rid of too many of the pests, then the predators that feed on them are going to leave too because there's nothing to eat.
Right.
So if you can have a little healthy ecosystem, you know, going on. It's, you know, we have like lizards here in Florida, which, you know, people don't have. Probably over in Norway, probably don't have too many lizards running around. But you know, we can walk out there's like Jurassic Park sometime because you know we don't use anything. There's bugs running around, and if you stir up the mulch, bugs come out, and then lizards just run out, grab them, and run off.
Yeah.
Right.
But you know, if you try to kill too many of them, you know, you break up that little web of life and that's going on.
Yeah.
So you know, and then it gets out of hand. So I just try to let everything be.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
if you're combining your artificial growing with nature, then you really need to rely on the nature part of it, I think. But for
Yeah.
me, it's a isolated room. There's nothing else going on. Predatory mites, it's kind of my only way to combat some of these pests when I'm doing so much soil growing. Like at any given time, I always have 100 pots of soil. And the only thing that I can really keep going forever and ever in my grow rooms are the predatory mites I use for fungus gnats.
Yeah.
It's called Hypoaspis miles, and I do grow them myself because once I get a culture started, I grow them in my indoor compost. And every time I repot or do a new pot of a plant or a new bag of soil, I go down into my compost and I just scrape out a decent size of those predatory mites, and I never have fungus gnats issues. And I see so many people have fungus gnats issues on their plants, and it's just horrible if you really can't get rid of it. It's almost
Yeah.
impossible. They are everywhere.
Yeah, I mean they can seem impossible, but here, let me see if I can't probably get myself reached up here. And I think it was just mentioned too by Tony as well earlier. Is I got these, man. And I've got an army of these little guys right here. And you can already, I don't know if you can see enough on there, but it's speckled.
Yeah.
And they're always working because, like you said, if you've got soil and you got soil in your house, I've got a ton of it. I haven't had the ability, like Tony mentions, why he does soilless for his plants. So I'm sure like a lot of coir and stuff like that. But yeah, I use a bunch of those, and I don't really. Every now and then it pops up a little bit, and I just go in and replace a bunch of them and everything.
Yeah.
But
But it's
for the
it's
most
it's
part,
an
it keeps them
ongoing
at a
thing.
level. Yeah, it's ongoing. It's not.
Yeah. That's the nice things about the pests that I use. They are only living in the soil. They go nowhere in the house. You get them one time for a new culture. Let's say you get it for a new grow room setup. Like for instance, in your garden, it would be going forever, because the nice things about these pests is that they eat, or the predatory mites is that they eat the fungus gnat larva. And when
Yeah.
they don't get that, they contribute to the breaking down of dead plant materials. So it really goes into the environment, and they reproduce, and they don't die or they don't eat each other if there's not other foods. So
Right.
yeah, it's a perfect
And is
thing to
it
have.
okay? So it's something you get, and like for me, as you can tell, I've got a ton of plants. Is it something I have to go and
Yeah.
put and
Yeah.
introduce to each and every pot?
Yeah. So what you do, you get a you choose the size of the bottle that you get. You can get I get 10,000 or 20,000 of the mites, but it all depends on how much you want to get. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's too expensive either. And what you get is a bottle with vermiculite, and you have all these Hypoaspis miles mites inside the vermiculite, and you just
Yeah.
sprinkle a little bit into every single pot that you have.
Okay.
So yeah, I highly recommend it for everybody doing indoor gardening. If there's only one thing that you are going to really be happy
Invest
about
in.
getting, is those
Yeah.
things, because you can avoid all those yellow fly traps. And I used to have I don't know if you have seen it, Enoch. I used to have a huge grow box in the indoor grow room
Oh, I
many years
remember the
ago.
big grow box. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
I think it was like 50 bags of soil in
it
that
was
grow box.
huge. It was
So it was
huge for an
enormous.
indoor grow box. It was
Yeah,
huge.
and
Yeah.
try to yellow fly trap that entire box. It's forget about it. It's not going
Right.
to work. So so yeah, it's a must, and a
Yeah.
really cheap investment in the long time. It's going to be expensive also to use those yellow sticky tapes all the time if you're using it year after year after year. So
Yeah, they
yeah,
will
check it
add
out.
up a bit after a while. That's for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. And so then I suppose that okay, so you get them around and you've got them all there, you spread them all over the place. So I suppose, say if you get a new plant then that you're bringing in, would you just go and scoop some soil out from another one and just introduce it right into your new plant?
Yeah.
Just
And
that, just that easy, huh?
yeah, it's that easy. And what I do, and I learned this from Raymond Browning on his Praxis channel,
Yeah, the Voodoo
or
Garden.
the Voodoo Garden channel. Like
Yeah.
he said, every time there's dead leaves or something on my plants, I always crumble them up and spread them in the soil. And that's what's keeping those types of predatory mites alive, because you're feeding back to the soil and you're giving organic fertilizer, and you're also giving back some of the leaves that are falling off, and then they will
Right.
survive on that if there is no fungus gnat larvas to take, and
Yeah.
then you can just go with the spoon and just scoop out.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to do that. So many things I'm just gonna have to do. I just,
Yeah.
again, too, it's there's also a little bit of lazy gardening in there too. Just kind of going with it, and if that works, it works, and you just kind of roll along with it as it goes. But no, that would probably be a better solution than all of the yellow traps. But they do work really well, though.
They do.
As far as if you do need just kind of a simple, easy solution, or again, too inexpensive to get started into. And I think you might be right, though, is if you're using it year in and year out, they will add up when it comes down to it. So maybe the long-term investment might be well more worth it, and just get some of those.
It's irritating sitting and filming a video, and you get that nose fly. So
my
you
gosh.
totally eliminate that. I guess that's happened to you before.
Yeah. In fact, I'll tell a story. I used to do my live streams Wednesdays evening. I called them the Wednesday lives, and I did that for a couple of years here on the channel. And one day, and I was here, and it wasn't like all set up like it is. I think I used to do it just like in the back corner, in a little corner somewhere with the screen or whatever. And but one day I had one of those little gnats come in and just fly in right as I was talking, and I sucked that sucker right into my lungs, down my air pipe. And boy, I was like I couldn't get my air back. I was live on with everybody and just choking on this dang fungus gnat.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was terrible. That was terrible. I remember. I'll never
That's kind
forget
of
that
what
one.
defines a gardener, I think.
Exactly. Right on, Mike. We got you all quiet over there. How's things going over there?
No, pretty good. I was just thinking about that. That's a good tip. I get a lot of people asking me, about like fungus gnats and that, and I don't grow in soil, so I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know. So, but the only thing we told them was to get the little, I forget what they're called, but they have this little fan. It's got a little pheromone you put in, and it sucks the gnats in, and that's a good idea with the
Yeah.
predatory ones. I'm gonna have to start giving that tip, or I'll just show them over to your channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really simple, and it's not that expensive also. And if you have 50 plants in your house, you really should get it.
Yeah. Well, I guess let's see here. I got a couple of questions here real quick in a way. Where are we at? Do you use beneficial nematodes? So you're talking about predatory mites, but there are also beneficial nematodes as well, right?
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
I don't know.
Nothing you've used.
I use healthy soil, and when the going gets tough, I introduce some small things crawling around, and that's the only thing that I do. And I try to stay away. I used to use neem oil, and I used to use pyrethrin, or what's it called, and all those types of organic pest control things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's not for me. That's not for me. So
didn't find any of them really effective.
It's the problem is that you're not killing the things that you want to kill. You're killing your plants. That's what you're ending up doing all the time. And if you're not killing the plants, you're at least severely getting the plant stressed, and then all the pests are just going in harder. So use water. In Norway we have something called green soap. It's made by pine, with pine oil or something like that, and it's not a problem. It doesn't kill anything. You can have it you can put it in the soil without having problem with it. And I use that to wash all my plants and really scrub them down, and it is very efficient. So Jay is writing if this is the correct stuff. No, I'll just write the name. This is Hypoaspis miles or miles or something. That's the ones that I use for fungus gnats.
Excellent. Perfect. Yeah. Let's see. I had someone else also mentioning too here that their issue is with scale. You deal with scale at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any solutions to that, or
Q-tip, rubbing alcohol, work. Go to work.
Yeah.
That's the only way I've gotten rid of it. And also, once I've finished doing the Q-tip and the rubbing alcohol, and it looks like everything is gone, I do the same thing 3 times because I always lose sight of something. When I'm done with that, I use the same green soap solution where I just scrub the tree down. And after a while, the problem is actually going away. I've successfully removed it 2 times from my grow room.
Okay. Yeah. And I have done the same thing as well. I think we've talked about that a while back ago, and I did that with some scale I was dealing with as well too. It's just you got to kind of go at them, and again with most things like that too, so similar to like dealing with aphids out in the garden and everything, I just wash these things off, and you got to do the work. So I got to go back the next day and do the same thing, and then I got to go back the next day, do the same thing, and eventually in a few days I've worn that population down enough to where they're not coming back anymore. They don't got the strength to keep coming back. So eventually you'll wear them down, but you got to put in the work sometimes with them to do that. It's the same thing with scale. You got to do that. You got to take them down. They'll try to pop back up again a little bit more. You do the same thing, and then again, like you said, eventually you're going to wear down that population, and it's not going to be able to come back from it. Eventually, it can take some work though.
You also learn by time you learn to identify problems earlier. And
Yeah.
that's a really important thing, because in the beginning you would have a spider mite infestation that's so big that it's not possible to get back from it before you really noticing what's going on. But now you see, oh, there's some different types of spots on the end of my leaves. There's something going on. And yeah, that's something you learn. And when you it's really important to get in early with these types of things.
Yeah, early's best. That's when you deal with any sort of anything, infection of anything, whether it's yourself, your plants, or anything, taking things taken care of early is always the best. See, Tony over at Simplified Gardening in the chat asking, what was the leaves you were feeding the mites after you kill the gnats? As I just let them die off.
Yeah, so
leaves. So you're just talking about regular, just letting whatever plant leaves.
Yeah,
right, that die.
whatever is falling off the tree or whatever I'm pruning off the tree, I let it go there. And especially they really enjoy the pepper leaves. So when I'm pruning my pepper plants, I just place some leaves into every single pot to just have something going there. So it's kind of a mulching technique also for letting it not dry out too fast. So yeah, I use whatever is available in the garden at the time.
Yeah, just kind of let them there. And then again, too, like you said, it just feeds them that extra organic material to help keep their populations going until maybe, hopefully for them, not for you, but for them, some more fungus gnat larvae start showing up that they can munch on.
Yeah.
But yeah. So again, too, another thing I wanted to talk about too, Mike, is, well, I've been doing plenty of over the last few weeks is growing out some microgreens, and I talked about using your adapter to grow out some last time you were on the show, and all of that. Talk a little bit about some of the microgreen projects that you've been working on as well too, because again, that's something as well that's you can do soilless as well. That you've got some things where you're kind of working on some soilless stuff as well. And again, a great way to kind of produce some extra food for yourself in quick and easy fashion is growing microgreens.
Yeah, it's all just part of the system. I'm not real big into, like, I'm not like the microgreen guy or anything.
Right.
It's like, growing food. You plant stuff. Somebody just came up with the term microgreen, one day to sell it or whatever. It's just a tiny plant. And
yeah.
I got more into biointensive farming, and just looking up everything, square foot gardening and all of this, and biointensive was that instead of like tilling up your whole backyard and planting and then going through and thinning things out, was to save space and to get the best of the best, you plant densely into little trays, which basically looks like microgreens. And so when I was first looking up microgreens, I saw that. And then what they would do when they got to the size of microgreens, started having the first true leaves, they would take the best ones of those and transplant them, which was a little bit of work for me, but then they would tend those, and then the best of those would go into the garden.
Yeah.
And so I like that system because it saved on space. And so I just grow the microgreens in that because you can eat them, whenever you want. So if you have a variety out there, you can have spicy ones or healthy ones, or just different aromas, and that you have them growing. And then at any time you can take them and plant them into the bigger containers with the hydroponics. It makes it really easy.
Yeah.
When then you've got a bunch of baby greens, which are really expensive at the store right now. So you can have baby greens growing everywhere. Harvest some of those if you need, and then let a couple of those grow out to mature ones. And at the same time, still have more microgreens growing, so that when you have to replace them, like you're talking about, like pest or disease or something, if you kind of watch it, the one good thing with hydroponics and having a bunch in a container, if one plant's like affected and you catch it early, you watch it, you remove that plant. And then if you always have microgreens and baby greens and stuff growing, you've got something to just take and stick in its place. And it's a little more difficult if you have soil and you're pulling them up if you got them too close and their roots all intertwined in that. But with the hydroponics, you can like remove one, put one in, if you keep an eye on it, you start to notice a couple little aphids instead of messing around with it and trying to control it. If you've got all this stuff growing and you've got more microgreens and more backup, go ahead and just take that plant out and move it away from it. And I won't just trash that plant either. That's another thing too, is I'll move it farther out in the garden, and I have like what we call sacrificial plants all over the place. I have
there you go
trays that will be around the perimeter. And I stick kale and stuff out there and let it grow, and it might not be the best looking kale in that, but that attracts a lot of the pests. They'll go to the unhealthy plants and the ones that are dying. So I have a bunch of plants that don't look good and don't make it into the YouTube videos and that, but those are out there. Instead of just getting rid of them all and trying to have a bunch of pretty plants, that's where the bugs are going to go. You got a big buffet for them. But if you've got some
keep them busy,
that are smelling and decaying and stuff, and that that attracts a lot of them too. But that's why I like the hydroponics and the microgreens. It's all just part of that system.
Yeah, I think last time I was talking to you, though, you were working on a project with utilizing sand, just like regular play sand, right, to grow out your microgreens. How's that working out?
I think I got a video that's going to be out later today.
Oh, excellent. Well, perfect timing then.
Yeah, and the last one I did was just in little frozen TV dinner trays.
Yeah.
But it's just, I was just looking for a way to grow microgreens to get, the plants all started, and use something that, soil, you can compost it. Yeah. But that takes space in your yard. It takes time. You're not reusing it really quick. And with the sand, it's real cheap. Just about anyone can get sand. And after I use it, if we're just growing microgreens, I'm not growing a guava plant or anything, right? So if we're just growing greens, I can take it and rinse it out, and all the sand falls to the bottom. It's really easy to clean up. I was using clay pebbles or leca, hydrogen, whatever they call it. So I was using that, but that all floats. So it's kind of hard to separate it and reuse it, and you got to like cook it, or I leave mine sitting in the sun. But with the sand, I can fill up a bucket and all the sand falls down. Right. And all the organic stuff goes back into the compost. But then the sand I can rinse out and like reuse right away.
Yeah, exactly. I've got to try that out, because I was doing your original method utilizing the hydrogen, the leca balls. And again, that works. I mean, it works well. I mean, you got a bunch of good microgreens growing up out of it and everything. But like you said, they then become a problem with cleaning them up to reuse them and that sort of thing. And utilizing the sand would be probably a really great solution. I've got to give that a try too as well.
Just a little fun and keep things interesting and that. And
but again, too, similar, in similar fashion to what we're talking about ultimately is really, hydroponics just kind of takes gardening to a kind of a fun experimental level where we can kind of just, have fun with some things and enjoy the things that we're growing. I think that was one of the things I like about what each of you guys do with the different, in the difference of your content, is it's just kind of experimenting and having fun and seeing what we can get out of what we're doing. And then in the long run, I think, finding some things out that are really kind of, successful and can be easy for other people to utilize and do as well too.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Gardening is fun. That's the conclusion there, I think.
Exactly. That is the point. And gardening is fun. And we all, with gardening and growing, try to, and sometimes it just happens, but we're always working and finding some sort of fun experiment to work on and do and everything in the garden and all of that. But I kind of find it fun how you guys have really kind of turn these sort of fun experiments into some really kind of productive things that actually really work well. Right on. Well, it's been a great day here talking with you guys. I know, Chris, you got to be pretty tired. You've been traveling and doing everything all day. It's
10
late
PM
at night right now, 10 p.m. at night. So again, really awesome to catch up with you and have you here on the show with us today. And then,
Thank you. Thank you for always inviting me.
yeah, no, I really enjoy the conversations. Like I said, I try to make sure now that we got the show and everything that we get together with, you and Kang and all of that, so that we can have a fun, regular conversation throughout the growing year and all of that. And that was really our plan for this year. But every now and then that doesn't work out. We can't line up on the dates that we try to. And for today, though, really, really awesome of you, Mike, to spend your time today too, to jump in and join in on this conversation today and share with us, your experiments and your fun and journey with hydroponics and soilless gardening too. So again, thank you for spending your time here today as well.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. And thank everyone in the chat.
Yeah. Let's see here real quick. Just
and
real quick.
I'm gonna need to look up some of your videos, Mike. I'm really interested about the sand, at least. That's something that's very interesting. So I'm definitely going to watch out for that video.
Oh, cool. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's just, I have some people like, once in a while they're like, I can't do that. I live in the desert. I can't do that. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to figure out something you can. No.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if there's a thought that you can't do something, then more than likely there is a way to get it accomplished, with most things, and especially in the garden and all of that. There's lots of ways to go at things and stuff for people who live in all sorts of different conditions. Real quick, Janet did ask and drop this question last minute here. Mike, have you ever grown melons in hydroponics? Have either of you grown melons in hydroponics?
Yep. I don't really. I've grown like peppers, tomatoes, squash. But like I said, I'm more into trying to do the cheap and easy and have the system where we're going over and over again. So I'm not really into, anything that's going to take more than like a couple of weeks, and get growing again. If I'll do like pak choi or something, and that can go maybe like 6 to 8 weeks. But when you start getting into something like that, once those things start to fruit, they start sucking up a lot of water. So if you're dumping a bunch of the same nutrient solution in, then sooner or later, you're probably feeding it too much nutrients as they go through their flowering and the fruiting stages. And when I get into all that, then people ask different questions. And like I said, then I get out of the realm of the cheap and easy. So just to kind of stay on point with what I do, I basically do a lot of leafy greens. But Chris growing trees and coffee in there. He's probably
that's what I was gonna say though. Maybe for a melon or something like that, it would probably be best suited for a bigger system like you have there, Chris.
And it's fun because I have the exact opposite idea. I try to stay away from things that take less than 6 weeks. just because that's a whole nother way of setting things up. You don't use one container per plant. You use one container for 100 plants or something. And I'm doing one large project at a time. So I've been growing melons, and they do very well. And it's easier indoors to grow melons, and those large fruits, as you said, Mike, when it starts to flowering or producing the fruit, it really requires water. And if you're not there at nighttime when the fruit really starts growing, then you're gonna get problems with your fruiting in soil. So that's why growing it in water indoors it's perfect. But it's a whole project to get a melon going and to have it climb around for 60 to 80 and 100 days. I also don't do it too much because it's such a big project.
Right. And then and also I'm sure there's you got to do some hand pollinating and different things like that as well to guarantee fruit and all of that. But again too, it'd be another fun experiment though, to give it a try. And you never know what you'll come up with and everything too when it comes to some of these fun experiments. But right on, guys. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here with us today. It's been really a great conversation. And again, hopefully we'll have to get you guys back together again sometime in the future. But thanks a lot, guys.
All right, cool. Appreciate it.
Awesome. We'll see you in a minute here. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Yeah, got to make sure I get that reset. All right, everybody. Again, thank you so much for joining with us here today. What a great conversation with our friends Mike VanDuzee and Christopher Brandsdal, talking a lot about hydroponics and growing soilless. We touched on a little bit of house plants and pests and things as well too, but a really, really great fun conversation again here on the Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show. And thanks to our guests for being here with us today and giving us this great conversation. And if you can, like I said, go down below in the description there, and I have got links to our guests. Go down there and click on those links. Go check out what they've got growing on. And like I said at the beginning of the show, it's always great if you guys go take that little extra step and go jump over to one of their posts or one of their newer videos or something and go leave them a comment. Let them know that you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. Help show and spread the support here throughout the growing community. But again, thanks to them for joining with us here today for such a really great show. And also, again, like I said, we are here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, except for next Sunday. I gotta say that as well too, though. But next Sunday, I'll try to be here and maybe just kind of hang out with you guys or something like that if I can. But if not, I will set up a show where you guys can hang out in the chat if you'd like to do that as well too. So we'll at least have some chat available for everybody next Sunday. But yeah, so we are here though most of the time every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And we had a great Saturday show yesterday. We had Jenna from Growfully with Jenna on with us. So if you didn't get a chance to check out that conversation with Jenna, you'll want to go back to yesterday's show and check that out. It was a really fun discussion. And for the first time really ever in Let's Get Growing history, we had basically a guest host. We get Mike or Marc, my friend Marc, who joins us as a co-host for our book club. But yesterday I had some technical issues and it completely dumped me and dropped me out of the show. And Jenna had to take over basically as host, and she did a wonderful job. She'd never been on a live stream before. She's been on our show once before, but she took right over, started answering questions and doing all that. Well, I got the technical things figured out to get back into the show. So that was really kind of a fun experience I would like to not repeat again, but it was really great to see Jenna jump in there and take over and take care of things for me on the show. So go back and check that out, yesterday's show. And also to let you know about next week coming up on our Saturday show, we will have joining with us Vikram Baliga, the plant prof. Basically, he's a professor at Texas A&M and teaches agriculture and horticultural subjects there as well too. And so he is going to join with us next Saturday on the show. He has a great channel, The Plant Prof, where he talks and kind of debunks and kind of gives hard time to a lot of there's some weird, funny content that gets put out there in the plant world of a bunch of just kind of crazy stuff, that people talk about, and you'll see them all the time. People people doing kind of crazy things, and they kind of show these weird, crazy results on stuff. So he's busting all of these garden myths and all of this misinformation and these weird videos out there on his channel. So we'll talk with him all about that sort of stuff, talk with him what's going on there at the university and all the things going on in his garden in the upcoming growing year next Saturday on the Let's Get Growing show. So again, I hope to see all of you there. And if you are here with us as we get heading out today, definitely click that like button, hit the thumbs up, and also subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Hit the bell notification if you haven't hit that either, so you can be notified of all of our upcoming live streams and videos too. Like I was mentioning too, on earlier in the show as well, is that we are working on videos. I got more and more videos that I'm working on. We're going to do some garden journal stuff, and we'll also do some more. I've started a series on peppers that I mentioned earlier too that you guys can check out. I'm going to take you through the whole growing season when it comes to growing peppers. So I've got a pepper series I'm working on, some other things that are just kind of more like, you know, just some specific how-to type videos of things that I do in my garden. Plus, like I said, all of the garden journals as well too that we're doing. And yeah, so lots and lots of great things to look forward to here on the channel when it comes to video content, as well as more and more fun live shows to come. We've got, like I said, we've got Vikram coming up next week. We've got some great guests coming up in the weeks to come. Just again, too, I want to make sure that everybody does know once more before we head out today that for our Sunday edition next week, I might show up for a fun, just casual conversation if I can. We'll leave the chat open, but there won't be any regular Sunday edition show like we normally do. So yeah, again, great to see all of you. Thank you all so much for taking your time to be with us here on the show. It's so great to see all of you and spend my weekend with all of you here with all of these great guests that we get to have here on the Let's Get Growing show. So again, I look forward to seeing all of you next Saturday. We'll see you then.